In this podcast episode, Dr. Lucia Aronica, an epigenetics scientist and professor at Stanford University School of Medicine, shares groundbreaking insights about how food can profoundly influence our genes and overall health. She reveals how dietary choices serve not only as fuel, but as a powerful tool to rewrite genetic expression, slow aging, enhance vitality, and transform health from a cellular level. Dr. Aronica guides listeners through the science of epigenetics and explains how pleasurable, sustainable nutrition can change the trajectory of one's well-being. Dr. Aronica introduces epigenetics as the study of molecular switches that sit on top of our genes, modulating their activity much like turning a volume knob. These marks are dynamic and influenced daily by lifestyle choices, including diet, exercise, and stress management, making us active writers of our own health story. Unlike the misconception that genes rigidly determine fate, epigenetics shows that genes account for only about 25% of health outcomes, while the remaining 75% is modifiable through behavior and environment. This paradigm shift empowers individuals to view genetic predispositions as opportunities rather than inevitable destiny. Addressing those skeptical after failed diets or health programs, Dr. Aronica explains how repeated cycles of weight loss and gain create an epigenetic memory in fat cells, which resist change like a problematic software update. However, sustained weight loss for 6 months can reprogram these cells, reversing this memory. She emphasizes that consistent change comes from finding pleasure in healthy foods rather than white-knuckling through restrictive diets, advocating for embracing enjoyable and nourishing eating habits inspired by Italian culinary traditions. Dr. Aronica's research demonstrates that every meal is an opportunity to influence gene expression, symbolized by the fork as a pencil rewriting our genetic instructions. She explains how daily choices can activate or silence protective genes, and how this principle applies beyond weight management to influencing chronic diseases and mental health. This concept reframes food from mere calories to a form of biological communication that carries the power to extend lifespan and improve quality of life. Building on the metaphor of food as biological ink, Dr. Aronica highlights 2 categories of epi-nutrients: methyl donors, which provide the structural material to write on genes, and epi-bioactives, which signal the enzymes controlling gene activity. She uncovers the hidden power of colorful fruits and vegetables, explaining that dietary pigments are not just antioxidants, but vital signals with distinct effects. For instance, red foods like tomatoes supply lycopene, enhancing natural sun protection. Orange foods such as carrots provide carotenoids that nourish skin, and green vegetables like broccoli contain sulforaphane, a compound that activates over 200 protective genes to boost detoxification and antioxidant defenses. A fascinating highlight is how sulforaphane, abundant in broccoli and cruciferous vegetables, functions like a glow stick for genes. Sulforaphane only forms when the enzyme myrosinase mixes with glucoraphanin, a process triggered by chopping or chewing broccoli. However, freezing or boiling broccoli often destroys myrosinase, preventing this reaction. Dr. Aronica shares practical hacks to maximize sulforaphane intake, such as chopping fresh broccoli 40 minutes before cooking, adding mustard powder to frozen broccoli to restore enzyme activity, or consuming broccoli sprouts, which have up to 100 times more of the precursor compound. Garlic operates under a similar glow stick principle, producing allicin, an immune-boosting and anti-inflammatory compound, only after crushing or chopping and allowing it to sit before cooking. For chocolate lovers, Dr. Aronica recommends non-Dutch processed varieties or raw cacao powder to preserve flavanols that benefit metabolism and cognition. She cautions about frozen red bell peppers losing vitamin C and advocates for eating a broad spectrum of natural colors together to cover all bases in gene protection. Dr. Aronica shines a spotlight on choline, a nutrient often overlooked despite 90% of people being deficient. Choline is essential for cell membrane structure, liver fat metabolism, and brain function through acetylcholine production. It acts as a vital methyl donor for gene regulation, especially during pregnancy, when higher intake correlates with improved cognitive outcomes and reduced anxiety in children years later. To meet recommended amounts, she advises consuming the equivalent of 4 egg yolks daily, supplemented by sources like salmon and liver, while debunking the myth that dietary cholesterol from eggs universally harms blood cholesterol levels. Protein's role extends beyond building muscle and maintaining tissue. It also supports epigenetic health by providing critical amino acids like methionine and vitamin B1. 2. Muscle building from resistance training works synergistically, turning on genes that improve metabolism and combat diabetes. Collagen, the body's most abundant protein, serves as scaffolding for skin and connective tissues but declines with age, particularly post-menopause. Dr. Aronica encourages consuming collagen-rich foods via whole animal consumption, such as skin-on fish, slow-cooked meats, bone broth, and organ meats, practices that nourish the body at a molecular level. Omega-3s are described as the body's cellular fire department, quelling chronic inflammation responsible for accelerated aging. While plant sources like flax seeds and walnuts provide ALA, conversion to the bioactive EPA and DHA forms is inefficient, especially with age or stress. Therefore, cold water fatty fish such as salmon and sardines, consumed multiple times weekly, are the best sources. Supplementation may be needed to reach therapeutic levels shown to affect gene expression related to inflammation control. Fermented foods deliver an epigenetic triple threat comprising prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics, bacterial compounds that influence gene regulation beyond the gut. Butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid produced by gut bacteria, exemplifies these postbiotics by modulating genes involved in inflammation and immune health. Studies from Stanford show fermented foods reduce systemic inflammation and increase microbiome diversity more effectively than fiber intake alone, highlighting their essential role in epigenetic nutrition. Dr. Aronica closes by stressing that lasting transformation depends on pleasure and joy in the process. Real food that tastes good, social connections around meals, and movement that excites all support epigenetic health and consistency. She reminds listeners to become the invitation to healthier living, embodying change that others can notice and potentially follow, emphasizing that genes are an opportunity and not a sentence. Ultimately, listeners are invited to view every choice as a stroke of the epigenetic pencil, creating a masterpiece of vitality and longevity. By consciously combining protein, nutrient-rich plant foods, omega-3s, fermented foods, and incorporating simple preparation techniques, individuals can tap into their genetic potential and change their health trajectory not only for themselves, but for future generations.